This is Let's Talk Business with your host, Marc Ebinger and Heather Boehme. Now, here's Marc.
Welcome to Let's Talk Business, a show that talks entrepreneurship with some of the best businesses in the San Antonio area. Coming up on the show today, we're going to talk with Ernie Ochoa, the owner of HandyGreen Landscaping. Ernie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
First time. Are you nervous?
Yes, very.
You're going to do great.
Good.
It's all good. We're also going to talk with Dan Diaz, the owner of OfMeNow.com, who specializes in providing funding so that self-employed buyers can purchase their dream home. Dan, welcome to the show.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, first timer.
Yepers.
Love it. This isn't your first time doing a podcast. So
this is not the first time at a podcast, but this is the first time at a fancy-pantsy podcast.
Oh, we're a fancy-pantsy podcast now.
I guess we are. Right? We've moved on up. All right. In studio with us today is Heather Boehme, a certified business coach that works with business owners to gain clarity and achieve their goals. Heather, welcome back to the show.
Always happy to be here.
And I'm your host, Marc Ebinger, the owner of Crükus Marketing Agency, a company that specializes in giving small businesses a competitive edge by hiring administrative and social media experts from the Philippines for as little as $7 an hour. A quick reminder for our listeners, you can catch video and podcast versions of the show anytime by visiting our website at satalkradio.com. And if you're a business owner in the San Antonio area and would like to have your company featured on the show, visit our website at satalkradio.com or call our office at 210-960-8210. That's 210-960-8210. So, Heather, before we get into that, I wanted to mention real quick, of course, you're a business coach, and we have great meetings every week, and I'm super excited about some of the stuff that we covered this past week that I think is really, really going to help me save a ton of money. I was talking with Jennifer afterwards. Have you guys ever worked with a business coach, Ernie?
No, but I'm very interested in getting some information. Yeah.
And Dan, have you ever worked with a business coach?
I have, yeah.
Okay. So it's one of these deals where it's like I have a decision to make on something, and it was going to cost money. And my wife's like, not happy with that. It's like, this is going to cost us money. I don't like spending money when I don't have to spend money. And Heather had said, okay, because I have Heather and I, of course, we do the weekly call, and my wife's in down there now. I made it mandatory for her she has to attend these.
Nice.
Because it's an open forum. It's like you've got an advocate in the room, right? It's not just me being star-eyed and bushy-tailed about whatever, but you got somebody that's paying attention to stuff. Well, Heather had this idea. I won't go into the specifics of it, but I just wanted to mention how profound it was, because it like turned a non-money situation into a potential money situation. Cool. And that's huge. So I wanted to say thank you very much for that.
Oh,
very nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of things in business that, it can cost us money. And if we can kind of take that step back and figure out a way to align it with what we're already doing to generate funds, it can be a huge game changer, because it goes from just having to eat the cost to being able to, while you are, eating the costs, also making that cost earn money for you on the other end as well. So you go from totally just having to pour in an investment to being able to make that investment start immediately seeing returns. And that's the great thing about being, independent, small to medium-sized businesses, is like cash flow is important for us.
Oh, yes.
We're not like the tech companies where we just go and pitch to huge investors and get millions of dollars to just do what we need to do and then hope we make money one day. We have to make money now.
Yeah,
It's true.
It's
Yeah, it's
a
very
constant
important.
fight.
Very, very important.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right, so first up on the show is Ernie Ochoa, the owner of HandyGreen Landscaping. So Ernie, welcome to the show, first timer.
Thank you.
Excited to have you here. You've got a great energy about you.
Yeah.
You can tell you're a sharp dresser. When we met up at Black Rifle Coffee, it's like he brought his son with him. His son is very attentive to what's going on. That's
Nice.
next generation.
Yes.
So how excited are you to kind of be training that next generation into what you're doing and what you're passionate about?
I'm definitely excited because I want to get it to the next level, coming from where I started it. And then it's like all his mentality his technology is all the stuff that's out there. And he brings all that to the table, and with the energy that he has also, it just, because I'm used to doing things the old way, paper in hand, give the list to the guys like we used to when we first started. He got me this program where now it's all on the phone and things like that. So the generations is getting better and better, technology basically,
Yeah.
I love that. Oh,
But in being proud, right?
Oh,
also, because it's your son going into the business.
Yeah, it's very exciting because we have a little history. It's like, okay, kind of personal side of it, but I just got him after 18 years, and so he
congratulations.
came to me. Yeah, thank you. No, it's very exciting because, going through a separation with his mom is like, things are going back and forth. And then, of course, he's turning into a teenager where it's like, well, I'm going to hang out with my friends instead of hanging out with my dad. And I'm like, okay. But then 18 years comes around, it's like, well, I'm going to go with Dad now. So I'm like, okay, so I got to catch up from all those years of missing out because, you know, 1, they were busy. 2, she didn't want to, you know, let me have him and all kinds of little stuff like that. So finally, he's like, Dad, I'm going to go and hang out with you. I'm like, well, you ain't going to go to school. You're going to do something. He goes, well, I want to help you. And it's like, let's get the business to another level. He's talking about franchising. He's talking about, you know, all these softwares that are out there that help us run the business better. You know, that's where I'm going to need your help with some of that, you know, coaching because, like, again, I'm used to doing stuff old school, but we're getting to that point, you know, and we're busy and we got tons of stuff going on.
You know, the business coaching is kind of like a professional athlete. I've heard this analogy, and it's probably overused, but, you know, a professional athlete, somebody who's going to make money doing athletics, that's a pro, right? Wouldn't think of doing it without a coach. We understand it in that realm. But in ours, we're like, no, we're just going to plow through it. It's like, no, it's so important. I didn't realize until, I brought Heather on as my coach. So. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, just having someone on the outside who doesn't have a vested interest in the outcome, giving you that kind of backboard to talk through your ideas and then hold you to the things that you say are important in your business. That's really the key to it. It's that accountability piece of having a coach, having someone there to say, hey, you said getting all of this implemented was really important for your goals.
Yeah.
Let's do
Big
that.
Deal.
And one thing I love about this is that your son is actively interested and involved. Because I talk to a lot of business owners and ask them what their legacy plan is, what is the ultimate goal, and their kids don't want anything to do with their business. They are not interested. They don't want to take over. And so they're thinking of selling. They don't know what to do. What is it that got your son interested? Because landscaping, I mean, it's a great business, but it's not the sexiest business in the world.
True. And you know, I've always told him, I said, look, you got to decide what you want to do because you can't just do it. And then, of course, I think it's the freedom that we have in the office as being where we're at now and the level that we're at. You know, we're not actually physically doing the work anymore. And he gets to, and I think it's in the sales part of it. I think it's his personality that helps him because, you know, he's also doesn't get dirty dressed. You know, he's dressed nice. And I tell him it's all about presentation when you're out there. And then he loves to talk just like I do. And so, and then he sees the return too, the numbers. He sees me enjoying life and I have these toys and I have this and I have that. And it's like, well, Dad, I want some of that too. And I'm like, well, you got to put your time in it. You know, you got to learn from the bottom just like I did. Because when I first started, it was just me and another guy. And here we are with 10, 15 trucks. You know, we're about to hit almost 2 million this year. Wow. You know, very nice. I told you earlier, my guys showed up from the H2B program today.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my gosh. I got 14 guys that showed up, you know. And then I got my staff already, another 15 guys here. So now I got 30-something people that I got to deal with. And so it's like, okay, now we're back on track. You know, the season's here. Summer's here. We're going. You know, we put everybody in the trucks. We got everything going. And so they're off. And I think he sees all that. He sees that it's not how a lot of people think where we're like the mom and pop, where the little guy, we're just going down the street knocking on doors. You know, it's like, this is awesome. This is something that I never imagined it'd be to this point. You know, I had to get staff to help me with numbers. I got to get accountants. And I'm like, oh, my, you know, I'm used to doing stuff in paper, you know. Yeah. So it's different. But
turns into a mega operation.
Yeah.
I had a Zoom meeting this morning. I do Monday mornings with my team, and it's a full grid of Zoom. I mean, I think I had 16 people on. I started with 1 in August, and I'm at 16 now that was on the meeting this morning. It's full grid. And my daughter is...
Are you having to get a bigger screen?
Right? Well, I've got 3 screens now. But anyway, my daughter is going to be helping with... I mean, she does video editing. She does setup, stuff like that. But she's getting more and more involved. So that's a good feeling.
It is.
You know, when that second generation comes in, and they want to participate. It's not forced.
I just like him that he's there with me, you know, because like I said, divorced 17 years, 18 years that he wasn't part of it, you know, only on the weekends or every other weekends. And he was little. He was young when I was out working and doing all my thing. You know, and he didn't understand it. Dad, you know, let's go do this. I'm like, I'm tired. I got to go to work or something on Saturday or Sunday. And now that he sees the return, I think it's exciting. And just for me, just to have him there, it's just a blessing. And it's fun because he is interested.
I'm sure it's rejuvenated you.
Yeah, it did. It gave me energy because I was supposed to retire like 3 or 4 years ago. And he comes in bored and he's like, all right, I'm ready, Dad. I'm like, well, now I got to show him. and start him from the bottom so he understands everything about it, not just, well, okay, I'm going to go do sales and put an estimate together and boom, let's go. No, you got to know the product from top to bottom to be able to sell that product and be comfortable about that product. And you reassure the customer that that product is going to be that you promised them. You're going to go there 42 visits a year. You're going to do your part. You're going to add modes. You're going to have flowers throughout the year, all that stuff. So it's not just, So, but
and
he's
then
getting
leadership too, right? I mean,
course.
so that's the thing is teaching that next generation not only how to do the job and to work during that respect, working up through the system,
right,
but also the leadership required to run a team.
Yeah, and I tried. I mean, don't get me wrong. Nobody taught me. It was just trial and error.
Right.
And I tell him all the time. I said, look, I did all those mistakes for you, and he goes, well, let's do franchise. Let's get one in Austin.
Oh,
he
he's
lived in
thinking
Austin.
bigger.
Yeah,
I love it.
He's like, well, let's get a franchise. I'm like, okay, look, let me work on that. Hold on, let me get this situated first. But
Let me talk to my business coach.
Yeah. That's the coach. So
Is he watching Shark Tank?
I know. I think that's one of his favorite shows. It's like
That's a good sign.
Yeah. So those are the little things that makes me feel excited that he wants to continue letting it grow. Because, I tell him all the time, I said, you can go all over the place. San Antonio's growing. So why can't we grow? Why can't we have 30 trucks? I mean, some of my competitors, have 30, 40, 50 trucks. The big boys in town. Some companies are nationwide. I mean, you can do that too. As long as you have backup, you have your smarts, you get everything together.
So you want to focus on commercial.
That's
So
all we do, yeah.
What does that mean, doing it for commercial?
Commercial means that, we do shopping center strips. So that at the mall, at the apartment complexes, someone has to do that maintenance there. And that's us. That's us. We started off with residentials, and they got good, and it was good for cash flow because every day you're running their card. Okay, you did 10, 15, 20 a day, but, it's great. But during the wintertime, it just stops. November, December slows down for your maintenance. So during that time, I was like, well, what are we going to do to keep busy? We need money. Christmas is the biggest time of the year. Everybody needs a little extra money. So we started doing Christmas lights. We started putting Christmas lights all over the place. But then next I had an opportunity to do a commercial property. And he says, look, this is all year round. And he goes, you don't stop? No. It's 42 visits a year. During the wintertime, we do slow down, but you still get that revenue.
It's a yearly contract.
Yeah, it's a yearly contract. So what I do is I put a yearly contract together, divide it by 12, and I get the same thing in the peak season and off season. The good thing about it is off season, my labor cost goes down because I don't have to pay as much to be there as much as more, So that's where we decided. It's like, okay, well, let's turn it around. Why can't we go after, some more apartment complexes? And next thing you know it, we're up to like almost 100 commercial properties, which is apartment complexes, HOAs, little small shopping center strips. We do a lot of different churches. Oh, we just got the cemetery, San Fernando.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
congrats.
They were having some
Congratulations, yeah.
problems. They were having some issues over there. We just we did about 95% of the whole place right before Father's Day.
Oh,
Any special considerations for mowing at a cemetery?
Well, there's some things that you got to be careful and respectful and all that stuff like that. I mean, as long as, you respect, them, the people there and the stones and all that stuff. You just got to be careful. It's tedious. You got to do it a little slower because if you do a big yard, a big field or something, you just go, go, go. In the cemetery, we had to be careful going in between the tombstones, all kinds of stuff. Just got to be careful, And, of course, if there's something going on a little further away, we try to keep the tractors and everything away from this side.
Right.
So
Because of the noise and all that stuff.
But I found it that the commercials were better paying. There's more profit to be made, and it's all year round. And that's what we decided. We kind of got rid of all the residentials. We just gave them away. We just told them, I can't handle. I'd rather do one stop a day than do 10 stops a day, and save on fuel there. And then we're there, and it's all year round. I mean, if I'm going to get $3,000 a month, $4,000 a month, I want to get that also in November, December, when normally I would only get maybe $1,000 or $1,500 because the residentials are going to slow. From my 10 that I would do during peak season, I'm only going to do 5 or 6 during off season because they're a little higher in home or something.
So what I love here is that you made the realization that I think a lot of, especially trade businesses, do realize commercial is going to be a little bit more bang for our buck. We're going to be able to make one stop, do a bigger job, but make more revenue. But where I see a lot of starting companies run into a wall is they're like, oh, commercial is the way to go. And then getting more commercial jobs. Because you just glossed over that. You're like, we were doing residential. We got one shot at a commercial. And then we were like, commercial, and boom.
Yeah.
What were some of the challenges you faced from saying, wow, commercial is the way to go, and then being at 100 commercial accounts?
Well, The residentials don't ask you for insurance. You know, they're cool. You know, that's it. And it's like, okay, you're
they might not ask you for receipts.
Right. You know, it's like a residential. You're going to go and they're like, okay, just don't forget to close the door and, you know, sweet blow here. Let's go on the residential. It's like, okay. You go to commercial. It's like, okay, now you're going to put in flowers 3 or 4 times a year. You're doing mulch, you know, once or twice a year. So it looks good all the time. I mean, it's a curb appeal that, you know, the building, the place, it's got to look good. So next you know it, it's like, okay, we need this insurance policy to cover this. You need workman's comp. You need all this stuff. And I'm like, holy moly, what's that? You know? So it's like I call my agent and it's like, okay, I need this. And like, oh my God, Ernie, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing this apartment complex. That's what they asked for me for. Like, okay. So those are one of the things. It's insurance. It's very expensive, you know? But we got it, you know? And so with that one, it covers all the properties. But it's expensive. So we have to make sure that right now, of course, everybody knows prices are going up for everything. So right now, exactly what we're doing is we're like going to our old clients, you know, it's like, hey, I'm sorry, you know, we haven't raised you in a year, 2 years. I got to go up. You know, insurance is going up. You know, he was just there at my office telling me all these things because I'm trying to figure out how to cut corners on stuff because it's so expensive. So it's like, sorry, we can't, you know. Rates are expensive.
So there's the initial expense of just
I think it
increasing.
is because we had all the equipment already. You know, we have equipment, we have everything. You know, it was insurance is expensive, fuel was going up and down. You know how that goes. But lack of help also. So we got involved with the H-2B program with the government. Have y'all heard of that?
Tell us
What's
a little bit
H2B?
more about that. Yeah.
Well, we're out of
we're
time.
out of
So
time.
it went by really fast, right?
All right, yeah, go.
I told you would do great. You did fantastic. All right, Ernie, if folks want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can call HandyGreenLandscaping.com. They can look us up, or, you know, they can call the office at 210-893-5000. Just, you know, somebody will help you out.
And you're looking really for commercial jobs.
That's it. That's all we do is commercial. Yes, correct.
Right, excellent.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ernie. Appreciate it.
No problem.
I knew it was going to be fast and easy. All right, next up on the show is Dan Diaz, the owner of OfMeNow.com, who specializes in providing funding so that self-employed buyers can purchase their dream home. So, Dan, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
So this is a really cool concept. I remember we had our sit-down at Black Rifle Coffee. That's where I seem to be doing all my sit-downs. And it was cool to learn about what you're doing for self-employed people in particular. Yes. So let's start with how'd you get involved with this, and then what's your mission there?
Yeah, so a little bit about myself. I started as a full-time real estate investor in November of 2015, and the focus that I really wanted to go on had to do with owner financing. Coming from an immigrant background, I later found out that the first home my parents purchased was through owner financing. And this is basically a situation where the seller individually finances the purchase of the property. Later on, I learned that that's usually the way most self-employed individuals have to purchase a home, because if you don't have 2 years of tax returns, you have bad credit, or you write off a lot of things as you should on your taxes, it's really hard to get a traditional bank mortgage. The problem with the traditional model of owner financing is that it sucks for everybody. There's very limited inventory. Sellers don't want to hold a note. Agents have a hard time getting paid. And at the end of the day, buyers have very little inventory to choose from. They are usually not the best homes in the best neighborhoods or in the best conditions. So it's not the kind of quality of homes business owners would like to move their families into. So what we did right around 2018, 2019 is reverse engineered the process where just like Wells Fargo focuses on the money aspect of the transaction, we focused exclusively on the money aspect of the transaction. We carry no inventory to limit our clients. What we do is we take a look at their real-world ability to repay based upon their initial investment and their income, and we raise the necessary capital so that they can purchase any home off the MLS. We operate in the $200,000 to $2 million range. Our bread and butter is, like you would expect it, $300,000 to $600,000. And as long as it's in Texas, the greatest country in the world, we will do the deal. We obviously prefer San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston. And that really kind of helps us stay, very, very focused. So we really start with the buyer first. And all of a sudden, the process becomes really nice for everyone involved. The buyer is not limited. They can purchase any home off the MLS. Sellers are happy because from their perspective, it's a traditional sale that they're going to get cashed out on. Agents love us because now they can take a quasi lead to a fully commissionable buyer. And of course, our investors are very happy because they have very stable, predictable returns on their money.
What's
So it
the
works out well.
downside of doing what you're doing?
Great question. So it's not cheap. Just like Cadillac or Bentley is not cheap, we are the higher choice for most buyers. We do require a 20 to 30% total initial investment, which sometimes is a hurdle for some buyers. And of course, our interest rates are not bank rates. We don't get our money from the federal government that is loaning it out at 0%. We raise our money strictly from retired individuals, retired Americans who want to put their money to work. So the interest rates are obviously going to be higher than bank rates. However, even that negative is not a bad deal because they're going to get all the paperwork so that they can write off that interest at the end of the year. At the end of the day, that's what business owners need anyways.
Real quick, when I met you, I asked about the interest rate because I was in real estate.
Sure.
And you said the best thing. It was like one of my favorite. I talked to more than one person about you just because of what you told me. I said, what are the interest rates? Can you share what you told me?
So my general response is, and it's meant to be comedic, and that's the truth. Right now, our interest rates are more or less half of what they were in the summer of 1981. And if you know any history, in 1981, most interest rates were around the 18% range, and that was bank rates for good quality buyers. We try to average about 5 plus prime. Last year, that was about 8.25. This year, it is closer to the 12% range, so it does depend on what bank rates are at the time. But what I love telling people is, what's the interest rate on rent? And usually most people are a little thrown off, and they say, well, there is no interest. Like, well, there is interest. It's so high, you can't even call it interest anymore. You have to call it rent. You have to give it a new name. If you're never going to finish paying it off, guess what? It's 100% interest. And guess what? You can't write it off because it's not called interest. So it really is just a matter of perspective.
Well, and couldn't it be a short-term solution anyway? I mean, people can come in and say, 10%. I'm just throwing an easy number out there. They come in at 10% because this is what they need to get going, because maybe we're a business owner and we've been doing it for 6 or maybe a year and we don't have the 3 years of returns or whatever that are needed. That could be a starting point, yes?
So we don't advertise ourselves as a bridge product. Because we don't want to force people to refinance. These are 30-year mortgages, no balloons, no prepayment penalties, no mortgage insurance. However, we do let people know that they're more than welcome to use this as a bridge product. We are the easy button that allows them to not lose their dream home now. They'll lock it in. We can approve you in as little as 48 hours. We can close 18 days after the option period ends. And if you want to start looking to refinance the day after closing, you're more than welcome to. We have had a couple of buyers that refinance within 3 months. We have no restrictions or minimum lock-in periods. We also have buyers that have been with us for 7-8 years, and they like the privacy aspect of things. We can report to the credit bureaus if they want us to, or not report. By not reporting, that actually frees up their credit and purchasing power for their business if they wanted to. So there are advantages to both sides of the equation.
Yeah, I like that.
So if someone's listening and they're like, oh, I would love to use that because I cannot qualify for a mortgage, how would they recognize that they're a good fit for you? Because I'm assuming you don't take everybody.
Well, that's true. So the first thing that we do is do you have the initial investment requirement? We do require 20 to 30% total initial investment. And I say total initial investment because it's not just the down payment. That's the down payment, closing cost, appraisals, prepaids, attorney's fees, filing fees, origination, application, earnest money, option money.
Well, you've done
the
this
whole
before.
9 yards. I've done this before.
It rolls off the tongue.
So
You know
it's
your job.
and it's kind of a way for you to pre-qualify yourself. You're looking for a $300,000 home. Do I have $60,000 to $90,000 to close it? I'm looking for a $500,000 home. Do I have $100,000 to $150,000 to close it? That's the first hump that I cannot help you with. You must have that initial investment in liquid and available cash. Nice thing about us is that I don't really care if it's cash under the mattress. Totally okay with that. Obviously prefer money in the bank, but we do have ways to handle cash deposits. The second is ability to repay, but I've never encountered a business owner that does not have ability to repay. They have income. So generally the second qualification, it just works out itself. It's just a matter of paperwork. If they have that, then they qualify for something very unique and something that I'm very proud of. which is a free initial phone consultation. This does last about an hour. We answer every imaginable question they could have. We go through every step. We go over terms, costs, conditions. The purpose of this initial phone consultation is really a dating phase. There's a possibility that they may be dating me for 30 years and I may be dating them for 30 years. We may be married to each other. So this is where we really get to know each other. I'm a big believer in no surprises. Everything will be laid out. Everything will be disclosed. That way, once they decide to move forward, they know exactly what to expect. I'm a big believer in that.
Yes.
Yeah. However, to answer your original question, that is sometimes the time where I do decline some clients. I'll give you an example. If a client is very challenging, no, I can't at that time. No, I don't want to go to the website to set up the consultation. Well, why can't you just call me at this time? Well, I just have one question. Can you get with me real quick? Then I realized, look, if you're being a pain in the butt before I've bought the home for you, you're going to be a bigger pain in the butt afterwards. So generally I use that as a pre-qualifier. Do I like you? Am I going to be happy with you? Are you teachable, coachable, trainable? Are you grateful for the opportunity? Are you going to be following my lead? And if you are, then I think we're going to get along great. And if you're not, you might not qualify, and that's okay.
Well, that's huge in any business, I feel like, and that's a level that everyone should aspire to get to, being able to recognize.
Save you so much headache.
Oh my gosh. Recognize someone who's going to make your life miserable no matter how much money they would make you.
Oh, I know.
100%. Yeah.
I was going to pass that question over to you, Ernie, about is that something that you've run into with your commercial clients?
Well, not so much with commercial. It's more of the residential.
Oh, okay.
You know, you got lots of Karens out there.
Yeah.
And
Karens.
You know,
and a few Kens?
Yeah. You know, it's weird because, you know, there's a lot of guys out there, the neighbor, the son, the teenager that's doing it for $20. I'm like, okay, well, you know, go ahead, go for $20, and then call me when he doesn't show up or he does something wrong or whatever. And then you go over there and say, look, it's going to cost you $50 or $75 for doing your residential. And then they want, you know, $150 worth of work. They want you to be there. They want you to, you know, do this outside of the scope of work that we normally was in the plan. And that's where it's like, no.
You guys ever turn into a handyman service?
He's like,
can you
guy,
fix my gate? Can you fix my
trim these trees?
And they expect, they think, oh, well, we're the landscapers guys. They're the lawn guys. Oh, you know, like, oh, they're paying them tacos or something. Like, no, you know what I mean? We're professional guys. You know, my guys are in uniform. My guys are, you know, the trucks are all white commercial, and they're like, well, don't worry, it's just going to, you know, it's like 5 more minutes. You have that tool, and like, yeah, but that tool cost me $500 to, you know, to get. You want that? That's, you know, additional costs. So, yeah, we get them all the time. We used to get them all the time. It's like, you know what? I'm done. So,
qualifying your folks.
Well,
you ever fire any
yes,
residents?
I have.
Good for you.
Have. Yeah.
I apologized for that one time. No, I'm kidding.
You know,
Well, and I feel like that's a key difference too when it comes to like people buying their personal homes and commercial contracts, because one is it's all about the numbers, it's all about the cash flow, it's about the expenses, and the other one is an emotional attachment
100%.
to a personal residence, and the vibe has to be vastly different.
And it has to, because statistically, even though it's a 30-year mortgage, it will statistically only last the relationship 7 years. Something will happen in 7 years. And there's about a 65 to 70% chance that what will happen in 7 years will not be pretty. The big D's will likely happen: death, divorce, disease, deployment. So all of those are emotional events in people's life that will bring a tremendous amount of stress, and I will hear some of it, and I just have to prepare myself. Do I like you?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Well, that's a very refined way of saying,
Somber
do I
way
like
to
you or
end
not?
Do I like you?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the truth.
Yeah.
Well, if people want
And
to
the
get
answer is
a hold
not
of
always
you-
yes.
It's true. It's true.
Get out of here. If they want to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
For sure.
How do they get in
Oh,
touch
I meant
with
you, Dan.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. You haven't given your info yet.
So, no, I'm sorry. So our website is ofmenow.com, OF like owner finance, ofmenow.com. My direct number, if you want to give me a call, it's 210-998-1714, 210-998-1714. My email address is dan.diaz@ofmenow.com, dan.diaz@ofmenow.com. I love connecting with real estate agents. They are our number one source of leads. If you or someone you know has a client that you weren't able to qualify him, I'd love to kind of sit down and see if we can get them into their dream home and get you a commissionable buyer now.
Yeah,
Thanks, Dan.
awesome.
Sounds great.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this show. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We appreciate that. A quick reminder for our listeners, you can catch our video and podcast versions of the show anytime by visiting our website at satalkradio.com. That's going to be it. Oh, also blogging. We launched blogging. So if you'd like to read, we're doing the transcripts of short clips on the show, not the whole thing. Oh my gosh, can you imagine 30 minutes? But just doing the short clips. But yeah, it's kind of a fun way to get us out there on the SEO for Google.
Yeah, if you're that person who doesn't want to listen to anything and watches everything on silent, blog it up.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
bet.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes,
fun.
Thank you.
You guys have a great week, and we'll see you on the next one.
Have a good one.